Okay, abusuya yabema kwa abashonko so ereba POG Media so abusuya yembonra yensem breaking news no na chese project ato ye screen so ede amama finally John Dramani Mahama has suspended Chief Justice Torkornoo enye asem keto akra. President Mahama suspends Chief Justice Torkornoo after settling up committee to probe petitions. Abusuya ene John Dramani Mahama has suspended Chief Justice Torkornoo say a 5 members committee HSA omoye massive investigation on 3 petitions and in Saka Busuafo and many mianom a 5 members committee no matnasia e koso de dendia enye asem keto akra. Lawyer Martin Pebu aba ene a Felix Ofusukwachi ede ensembi ababe tuja afa ho a enye easy kra mom yanko na yankonkoti ensema ekoso abusuya breaking no na ya project ato ye screen so amamono medamase.
Come and swear before the committee. You see, it's going to be examination. You see, they are going to do an inquiry. Even though we know people can lie on oath, etc., but they are going to a court proper. All I'm trying to say, one word is that come and repeat these things on oath. Look at your Bible and come and repeat these things. Look at you, come and take your Quran and repeat these things. You're a traditional worshiper. Okay, come and affirm and tell us that these things are true. So it's when you come and swear and say they are true. You for now, let's leave out the fact that people can lie. Yeah, let's leave that out for now. There is still that solemnity that if you can hold your Bible, promise that you say the truth and say it, then it gives it greater weight. Then they will ask you questions. So we want to solemnize the things. We want to come and repeat them on oath. Then they become weighty. You know how Ghanaians don't joke with our religion.
Right.
As to how we practice, it's a question for another day. So when we do that and the answers remain the same, nothing changes, then it can go against her. That okay, then you are guilty.
Right, Council, Mawena here, and I just want to ask one question before I bring in my colleague Joseph as well, who's here with me. That's in relation to the ongoing court processes, the injunction application, which had been adjourned to May 6th, and then the entirety of the application, which was seeking to have the Supreme Court now finally proclaim a direct way through which this entire process of the removal of the Chief Justice can go through. What happens first off to the injunction application now that we've seen the president reach this determination, and then the substantive case as well?
It means effectively the injunction application becomes smooth. I mean, I'm speaking practically. You see, I don't want to do legal. If we do too much legal, we will lose the public. Practically, once the president has gone ahead with the committee, now the Supreme Court will be slow from their own decisions in the past. Let's all remember the E-levy one. E-levy, even when, Oliver Bakavoma filed for contempt, the case was pending before the court, yet GRA and Akuffo went ahead and started collecting the E-levy where they promised millions of jobs. That never turned out to be true anyway. They went ahead. There are countless other cases that we can show. So what happens is that there is a rule. So in law, you hear to every rule, there is an exception. To every rule, there is an exception.
Right.
So generally, when it comes to the performance of public functions like this, then the court is slow to grant an injunction to stop the performance of a public function. The committee that has been set up, they are going to perform a public function. The work that the President and the Council of State have done, they are public functions. They are in Article 146 of the Constitution. So the courts are slow to do that. And you see, this same thing we are talking about, don't also forget, the law works in a certain context. Look, trust me, another petition, let's say, go into our future, a petition can happen tomorrow, and based on the public reaction, a president can stop. So let's know that sometimes it's not pure law, but it's also an amalgam, a totality of our reactions as citizens. The thing, if enough citizens had gotten up and started demonstrating that, President Mahama, please stop, let's finish the court case, yes, it would have happened. But once you don't have enough, because remember, and there's basis for it,
Right.
Because under Article 125 of our Constitution, it says that justice emanates from the people. So at every point in time, when the president is acting, and even the judges, etc., they also look at what the people think. So if the country was up in arms, saying that no, President Mahama, please wait, he would have waited. Right. I'm telling you, enough numbers. So it's not strict. Sometimes it depends on the reaction of society as well.
Right. Counsel, Blake comes in here right now, Joseph.
Yeah, Marina, thanks. And sorry for calling you Martin.
Sure. But Counsel, just hold for us. Let's try and just get viewers to understand, those who are joining us right now, what the breaking news is. And that breaking news is that President John Dramani Mahama has suspended the Chief Justice Gertrude Saba Torkornoo and subsequently formed a 5-member committee which is to investigate her for 3 petitions seeking her removal after the Council of State, along with the President, determined that there was indeed cases for her to answer in relation to these 3 petitions. We're going to run you through the membership of that 5-member committee again, and then we'll go back to Council for a bit more in relation to what it is that we're seeing. And so that's what's on your screen right now, the 5-member committee, which has been set or formed by the President, Justice Gabriel Scott Poaman, who is the chairman of the committee. Also, Justice Samuel Kwabena Dibu Esiedu is a member. Daniel Yao Domelevo is a former Auditor General. The first 2 are justices of the Supreme Court. Then there is Major Flora Bazwanura Dalugu. Is an ordinary Ghanaian or a member of the Ghana Armed Forces. Remember that the provision of Article 146, amongst many other things, says that they must not be lawyers or members of the Council of State, amongst many other things. And then Professor James Sefa Jisa is an associate professor at the University of Ghana. Joseph, you want to just talk to us about these members as well, these 5 that we're seeing?
I mean, Justice Gabriel Scott Poaman is the 2nd most senior Supreme Court judge. In terms of the current composition of the court, it's only Justice Paul Bafubon, who was appointed to the Supreme Court in 2008, who is senior to him. He joined the Supreme Court in 2015. He joined under controversial circumstances because with the appointment itself, there was a whole court case that was initiated by the Ghana Bar Association. They had raised questions about issues relating to why the president is allowed to appoint in accordance with the recommendation that comes from the Judicial Council, the list. When they do 1 to 10, can he pick around any part of the list, or is required to start in accordance with the list? He has to start from 1. If he's picking 5, he picks 1 to 5.
Right.
And so that is how come he was one of the 2 judges who were appointed at the time. The other was Justice Yawape, who has long retired. And so Justice Gabriel Poaman is still at the Supreme Court. He has gone on to deliver very interesting decisions over the period. Some of the decisions that have extended the frontiers in terms of the legal dispensation.
Right.
One that really comes to mind is the case of the ex-party's Senate case, the Republic versus the former Senate boss, the Director General, who was being prosecuted for the OBS software system. In that judgment, he discusses extensively issues surrounding administrative justice, judicial review. If you're asking the court to take a second look at the decision of an administrative body, what standards do you have to meet? It's one decision that, interestingly, the Chief Justice, who has been suspended, wrote the lead opinion. Justice Gabriel Poaman, who was on the panel as well, wrote the concurring opinion, and he discusses extensively judicial review in the Ghanaian context and how he thinks is different from the common law provision. Justice Samuel Kwame Adibu Esiedu is also another senior Supreme Court judge as well. He was appointed to the Supreme Court by President Akuffo Addo. When he was at the Court for Appeal, he was also sitting as an additional High Court judge, and he was handling the trial involving the former MPP NDC chairman Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo. He was the one handling that case before we know that case was terminated eventually by the Attorney General. So that was also one matter that he did. Interestingly, and it's one of the questions that I'll be putting to Counsel when we get back to him. Justice Samuel Kwame Adibu Esiedu is on the panel hearing the injunction case in the Vincent as a matter. The injunction against the process. He's participating in that particular proceedings. In terms of his judgments, he also has given some very interesting judgments at the court. One of them has to do with the issue surrounding if a law is repealed and you are being prosecuted, what happens? Can the trial go on or not? For those who are familiar with the law, Addo versus Attorney General is the case that he wrote the lead opinion on. Very interesting decision in there. So he's a very senior Supreme Court judge at the Supreme Court who is also participating in this one. I'll end with Daniel Yao Domelevo, the former Auditor General. You know him, most recently he was part of the Operation Recover All Loot team, a team that Counsel on the Line was also a member of that particular team. We know that he was Auditor General. He was one of the individuals who was appointed just before John Mahama exited office in his first term, together with the Shrag boss Joseph Hotal. When he was appointed, we know that in the course of his work, he was asked to proceed on leave, and effectively by the time he came back, in fact, he never came back. He eventually ended up retiring.
Yeah, someone else had
the matter ended up at the Supreme Court in the case of the CDD versus the Attorney General, and the Supreme Court took the view that the president asking him to proceed on leave and his subsequent removal from office was unconstitutional. And so that is how he left office as the Auditor General. But he's one, we know him as an anti-corruption crusader quite closely. And Counsel made reference to an aspect of this particular matter that has come up. The screenshot that we see in the public domain, we don't know whether it's in the petition or not.
Having to do with audit-related matters.
Audit-related matters. And so that is another thing that has come up.
Perhaps why there could be a decision to lean in on him when there are audit-related matters in these alleged screenshots that we've seen, none of which we can substantiate.
Yes. But it's consistent with the constitutional provision in that the majority for this particular committee relative to the Chief Justice, they are not supposed to be lawyers or members of Parliament. They are not supposed to form. If you compare to the other justices of the Superior Court, the 3 are from the legal fraternity. So this time around is the 3 from the other individuals. Right. And the question first I want to put to Counsel, and you did indicate that we want to make things very simple for the ordinary Ghanaian. They ask, who is the Chief Justice of Ghana as we speak? The statement is silent on that, but we know that in terms of the convention, if the Chief Justice is not around, the senior most judge acts in his stead. In this case, Justice Paul Bafo-Boni. Is it your understanding that with the statement being silent on that, he, as of now, should be the acting Chief Justice?
Absolutely, Akable. Absolutely. There's a specific provision for it in the Constitution. It's in there. I don't really have it here, but it's patently written that in the absence of the Chief Justice, the most senior Justice of the Supreme Court takes over. So it means that effectively, Justice Paul Bafo-Boni is acting Chief Justice. There can be no two ways about that.
I mean, the second question to you, Counsel, has to do with the case that is ongoing in court. Justice Kwame Addo, who is on that particular panel, the injunction aspect of it, he is to form a part of this particular committee. I mean, if you were a party in the case, would you be comfortable with him remaining on the panel, or you think that ordinarily there should be some steps, maybe he himself recusing himself from it, given that they are being asked to determine first whether the person should have been restrained? That's now you've made a point that it's moot. Then the substantive issues of whether a fair hearing should be given before the prima facie determination is taking place. He's participating in that particular case.
Okay, so looking at it, it's possible maybe my answer will change. But for now, on the face of it, what we usually use to determine is whether he sat on the case. Yes, so you can be empaneled. But if you haven't had the opportunity to attend the hearing, generally, in our Ghanaian context, people will not raise our eyebrows. But from what you are saying, I get you. But, sometimes this is Ghana. It's the state of our thinking. You see, in every society, it's not everything we're able to copy exactly from the white man. Ours, because everybody knows somebody, and you will find that even in Supreme Court decisions, you see the Salah case, etc.
Right.
When it comes to recusal, we are a bit different. So the main thing the average lawyer will tell you is that he didn't sit on the case. He didn't come into open court and the case called and he had arguments. You see, but it doesn't mean that you don't have a point.
Counsel, hold on for us briefly. We've been joined by the Minister for Government Communications, Felix Kwachofosu, on the telephone lines right now. He authored that statement, which has become the subject of conversation. Many thanks for joining us this afternoon. How soon did the President, in consultation with the Council of State, reach this determination that a prima facie case can or has been found against the Chief Justice? Hello, Mr. Kwachofosu, can you hear us? Hello, Felix. Well, it does appear we don't have him, but Counsel was making the point about the recusals and how not so frequent of a development it is in this parts of the country.
In fact, generally the conversation centers around issues of suspicion of bias and the real likelihood of bias, which was the point he was making, that Ghana generally we tilt towards the real likelihood of bias, and the courts have over the period. In fact, we saw it happen in some of the cases. The most recent one had to do with the case relative to the declaration of some seats in Parliament as vacant.
Right.
When the matter went to court, you know that lawyers for the Speaker of Parliament did raise issues about 2 of the judges that they wanted recused. I mean, the court quickly went on recess, came back and took the view that once the judges have been appropriately appointed in accordance with the Constitution, it is presumed that they can act in a fair manner.
Right, let's go back on the telephone lines with Felix Kwachofu. So, Mr. Kwachofu, so many thanks for speaking to us. Curious on the minds of a lot of Ghanaians, when the president, in consultation with the Council of State, reached this decision that the Chief Justice had a case to answer based on these 3 petitions.
Please speak up. I can barely hear you.
I'm asking when, between Thursday and today, when the president, in consultation with the Council of State, reached the conclusion that indeed the Chief Justice had a case to answer?
Well, I'm not able to disclose details of the process. As you yourself may know, there are strict rules of confidentiality. But I can tell you that such a conclusion has been reached, and it is on the basis of that the president has taken the step that I have just announced.
And so, amongst many other things, one question that's being asked is, this statement you issued is silent on who takes over now that the president has suspended the Chief Justice. What's the expectation of the president?
Well, the judiciary is a well-established institution in our country. They have their own administrative processes for getting someone to act in the stead of the Chief Justice in the event that she is temporarily unavailable. That is not a matter that the president determines. It is for the judiciary to make their own arrangements.
First ever of such a decision we've seen happen under any republic outside of the first ever president the country had when he removed the Chief Justice. What sort of processes went through this arrival at this decision? Because many are curious as to why we're seeing this happen for the first time and under John Mahama.
Well, the processes are clearly outlined in Article 146 of the 1992 Constitution. Indeed, you only have to read the statement I put out to appreciate the steps that have been taken. You recall that some weeks back, I informed the nation on behalf of the president that he has received petitions from 3 different courts alleging various forms of wrongdoing against the Chief Justice and demanding her removal from office. Upon receipt of that, and in strict conformity with the dictates of the Constitution, President Mahama began a consultation process with the Council of State, which consultation process required that he, in consultation with the Council of State, determine whether there was any basis to proceed, i.e., determine whether there was prima facie warranting any further steps as prescribed by the Constitution. So you recall that he forwarded the petition to the Chief Justice in consultation with the Council of State and requested her to provide responses in order to enable an assessment as to whether or not some prima facie exists on the face of the petition. This was complied with by the Chief Justice, and the President continued the consultation process with the Council of State. And the outcome of that consultation was that prima facie has been determined in respect of all 3 petitions. This also then means that Article 146 of the Constitution must kick in, which then requires the President, in consultation once again with the Council of State, to set up a 5-member committee whose composition is contained in the statement I just issued. That membership of the committee is such that 2 of the members must be justices of the Supreme Court,
right?
One of whom will chair the committee, and 3 other individuals who are neither lawyers nor members of the Council of State. And so you find that the 3 others who have been named meet this criteria. They are not lawyers, they are also not members of the Council of State. Once that is done, the petitions will then have to be referred to the committee to inquire into as to whether or not there's a basis to remove the Chief Justice from office. Now, while the committee does its work and once it has been set up, Article 146(10) of the Constitution empowers the President to suspend the Chief Justice for the duration of the work of the committee up until such time that they make recommendations to the President on what further step to take. So you find that everything the President has done has been grounded in the Constitution, Article 146, and its various provisions. So if you ask me about the process, this is exactly what has transpired since the pendency of these petitions.
All well and good, these processes you've outlined, but one criticism which is coming strongly from the quarters of the opposition NPP is that you're abusing these laid down processes in Article 146, and what we've seen happen up until this point is an attack on the country's judiciary.
Well, first of all, the NPP has come in for criticism for their unwarranted politicization of this particular issue. It is curious that it is a political party, the New Patriotic Party, that appear to be up in arms about this. Otherwise, every reasonable person understands exactly what is happening. That the President is required to act in specific ways once he receives this petition. In fact, before Mahama took office, in the dying embers of the Akuffo administration, a similar petition went to the President, and he took the same steps that the President has taken, except, of course, the determination of a prima facie. The President Akuffo also went into some consultation with the Council of State to determine whether there was prima facie in that petition. He, on that occasion, said there was no basis to proceed further. President Mahama, on this occasion, believes that in consultation with the Council of State, prima facie has been determined. So it is not clear why the NPP believes that when they are in power, their president can act in accordance with the Constitution. That when they leave power, another party that comes to power cannot act in accordance with the Constitution. So one has to question the sincerity that they bring to this whole discourse and question whether or not it is not politically motivated. Because quite frankly, they have not covered themselves in glory in this particular matter. They have needlessly politicized this and created an impression that the Chief Justice is one of them and she's been handed. And it is manifestly unfair to the Chief Justice what the NPP is doing. Their claims also do not hold merit because they cannot point to a single infraction on the part of the President in this whole process. And I'm not sure why they continue on the tangent that they are going. What has simply happened, and I must stress, that the President has not said that the Chief Justice is guilty of any offense. The President has only said that when he consulted with the Council of State and looked into the petitions and weighed them against the Chief Justice's responses, it became clear that there are further questions that need some answers. The platform to do that is spelled out clearly by the Constitution, and the President has followed that particular stipulation to ensure that the matter is determined conclusively, but it is determined by persons who are clothed with the mandate to do so, which is the committee that he has set up. So, again, I must...
Okay, abusia we ne ensema ekoso our political highway so aye Chief Justice Torkornoo finally ya suspending John Dramani Mahama at a 5-member committee so almost say on appear before that committee na investigation so but I must say moje penekokoti sa oduwe edema ha POG Media so medamase